Joining me now, Democratic media strategist Franco Ripple. Franco, good to see you.
Good evening, Liz. It's getting awfully warm in here. I was going to say from climate change, but I think it might be from all that hot air in your lead.
I thought you might enjoy that. I believe that's what they call baiting Franco. That is what that intro is. Franco, let me ask you, let's get right into this. I know this is a topic you're very passionate about. I'm very passionate about. I think on opposite ends of the spectrum here. But to what degree, Franco, do your carbon emissions, my carbon emissions, to what degree does that impact climate fluctuation, the temperature of the Earth?
It's a great question. We know that CO2 emissions do make the Earth hotter. We know that 80% of the world's heat records are due to climate change. But let me actually back up for a second. I think the science, you call it junk science. It's not junk science, and there's a reason why 200 of the world's nations, but for Syria and Nicaragua, the company that apparently now America keeps under President Trump, there's a reason that 200 nations have signed on to it. But honestly, a lot of Republicans are saying that this agreement would hurt our economy. President Obama specifically demanded that the Paris Agreement be non-binding to protect the American.
Right. So President Trump has every right to withdraw from it because it wasn't a treaty that was confirmed by the Senate, as it should have been. But Franco, I want to have this discussion because I'm not denying that the climate of our Earth is fluctuating. I think we can all see that when we look at the temperatures. The temperatures are in fact rising from the time that we began to collect the temperatures, which was not too long ago, about 150 years ago. But if you don't mind, go back to that first question, answer that question. I mean, this is our money. This is the tax money of the hardworking American people we're talking about. I think it's fair to ask the question, you know, how much do our actions here in the United States, to what degree does that impact the changing climate? Because you say, oh, we have proof. Well, tell me, what's the proof?
Listen, emissions, we know that the United States is the second biggest emitter, right, of carbon in the world. We know that. They're not the only ones, and that's why China, India, and a lot of other nations need to be held accountable for their emissions. But follow the science. We know the U.S. is the second largest emitter. We know that carbon emissions drive up temperatures. We know, again, that 80% of the world's climate records or heat records are due to climate change. We know that 40% of Americans live in places.
Franco, this is shocking to me. This is shocking to me because if you argue, from your standpoint, climate change is not a political agenda. It's not a political agenda at all. It's just purely based on science. That's what liberals say, that climate change is based on science, that the changing temperature of the Earth is based on science. But then you're sitting in front of me right now and you can't even give me the numbers. If science isn't based off of mathematics, isn't it just opinion?
No, it's not. And I never said that it's not politics. It is politics because, Liz, as you well know, what is politics? Politics is the will of people to do something. And that is why, here's some numbers that President Trump might be interested in. If he's not going to listen to his science advisors that are non-existent, if he's not going to listen to Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, for whatever that's worth, ExxonMobil, and Shell Oil, who are all in favor of staying in the Paris Agreement, let's talk about some other numbers. Here's some. 70% of Americans favor staying in the Paris Agreement. That includes 50%, more than 50%, a majority of every single U.S. state, and a majority of Republicans. And if you don't believe me, go to my Twitter, @FrancoRipple, and look for the map yourself from the Sierra Club that shows every single...
Yeah, the Sierra Club. They're a reliable source when it comes to the politics of climate change. Franco, let me ask you this question. A lot of the urgency from the Paris Climate Accords, you know, we're told that if we don't act now, we're going to be beyond the tipping point. And I'm not just making a bad pun here. That's actually the term that they used. We're going to be beyond the tipping point. We're not going to be able to reverse the change. But my question to you is, how can we have confidence that these dire predictions from climate experts will come true when none of their dire predictions from the past 30, 40, 50 years have actually come true?
Liz, that's just not true. The worldwide heating, again, over the entire world, over the last 30 years, has been consistent and has been consistently increasing. The first decade of this century was the hottest in recorded history.
But that's not the dire predictions that I'm talking about. I mean, I wrote down a list here. I came totally prepared for this, Franco. These are some of the predictions that climate scientists have threatened us with, really, since the 1970s. They said by the year 2000, we wouldn't have polar bears. We wouldn't have polar ice caps anymore. There'd be a small ice age by the year 2000. Food sources would be extinct. We'd be starving due to frigid temperatures. We would have resorted in the West, this one's a good one, to cannibalism because of this food shortage. England would no longer exist. They'd either be covered in water or they'd be in Siberian-like temperatures. There'd be 50 million climate refugees. I don't see any of those. Fleeing from the Pacific Islands, not Syria. I've heard that one before. Entire nations would be underwater. The Himalayan glaciers would be melted by the year 2035. California would be flooded with inland seas. Franco, and unless I'm missing something here, I'm not sitting in a boat. You'll have to let me know about that. There'd be no Arctic ice in the summer, and we'd face certain gloom. Franco, none of those predictions have come true.
Actually, there is an island nation in the Pacific that is almost currently completely underwater, causing the people of that nation, an entire island nation, Liz, to have to relocate. But let's look at some other climate facts then, if those don't work for you. How about some Republican states like South Dakota, Mississippi, West Virginia, Montana, as well as seniors over 60 who vote the most reliably Republican? All of those would are suffering the highest percentages of fatalities from flooding. Hot weather that we're currently having is only getting hotter. Heavy rain is only getting heavier. In fact, there's been a 74% increase in the last 50 years in heavy rain in the Northeast. I could go on, and so could you. The fact remains, the majority of Americans, a deep majority, including most Republicans, want America to lead. Yes, President Obama made this a non-binding.
Right. No, I'm interested in the severe weather aspect of this. I mean, share with our audience. I'm sure our viewers would be interested. What studies prove the correlation between climate change and severe weather?
A lot of them. I don't have them right here at my fingertips. But a lot of them. And Liz, that's a reason why there is a bipartisan group, including 13 congressional Republicans in the House, who are part of a climate caucus warning President Trump, including Congressman Mark Sanford, former governor from South Carolina, Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, and Carlos Curbelo down in South Florida. These
Franco,
are districts that are suffering from sea level rise. And again, 40% of Americans live in places that would suffer from sea level rise. Mar-a-Lago.
I knew you were going to bring that up. Franco, that's the thing. I don't believe that because none of their predictions have come true in the past. The only thing that they've proven is that these so-called climate change experts falsified data. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association falsified data to create the urgency to come to an agreement at the Paris Climate Accords. Forgive me if I don't trust these people. Show me the numbers. Show me the proof. And until liberals can do that, don't take my money for it. Franco.